Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charles Worthington. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I am really excited to be talking to you today about how we are incorporating emerging technologies here at the VA into the work that IT does. But what I'm hoping to do today is actually make a case to you that we can't begin to talk about a new technology like AI without first thinking about the way that our organizations work as a whole. Because I'm a strong believer that tools and technology are really only a part of what technology can bring to the public sector. We also need to bring our people and our processes along as well. And I think at VA, we've done a really good job of trying to change the way that OIT works for the agency to make us more adaptive and flexible. And that's, I think, a necessary precondition before you start thinking about adding in new tools. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we have done at the VA that has, I think, really set us up for success as we look to the future of these emerging technologies. I don't know about your workplaces, but at the VA, it is certainly true that there is almost no initiative that the agency is undertaking across the entire department that doesn't heavily depend on our ability to effectively use technology. Uh, Everything from implementing some of Congress's key priorities to responding to this unexpected pandemic, we have really relied on VA's ability to use technology effectively and in new ways to support the agency's mission. And I think that is just increasingly becoming true, not just here at the VA, but really worldwide. There's almost no part of the world that is not being deeply impacted by the more effective use of software and technology. Here at the VA, we have kind of distilled some of these needs down into a few guiding principles that lead us to goals and imperatives for transforming the VA and really lead us to 6 focus areas. And I think what you can really sum all of these things up is to say that we're trying to make our organization more adaptive to change, easier and more flexible to make improvements. And if that sounds familiar, I think that's a trend that is industry-wide right now as we try to adopt this DevOps mindset, where we integrate our development and our operations team along with security to try to create this more adaptive and flexible organization. Really, the focus of DevOps is all about decreasing the cost and the difficulty of making changes by breaking work up into smaller and smaller chunks that you can continuously iterate on. And so we have been several years into this journey here at the VA to try to adopt some of these types of approaches. And DevOps is, as I said at the beginning, not so much about the tools that we use, but really more about the processes and the people that we apply to problems. We've had some good successes making our organization more flexible and responsive by leaning into some of these approaches. And we've used them successfully to do some more traditional project delivery over the past couple of years. But these were really put to the test during the pandemic, which was obviously an unexpected and unplanned for event. And so, that's really a situation in which you need to be able to be a flexible organization. And luckily at the VA, we had started to build some of those muscle movements that add that agility and flexibility into the organization. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the successes that we had as we tried to respond to the early days of the pandemic, and obviously are going to be leaning on very heavily in the months and years to come as the nation brings ourselves out of this. Early on, we saw right away that telehealth was going to become an increasing focus. And telehealth already, VA is a leader in telehealth and has been in terms of letting people interact with their clinicians using not just video conferencing, but also phone and messaging, secure messaging. But right away, as we started to see inpatient services being infected or outpatient services being affected by the inability to come in for a routine appointment, we wanted to shift as many of those as possible to telehealth. And we had to scale this architecture quite dramatically. Something that you've seen is that it's grown and grown here at the VA, but I think that this is something that's here to stay. But obviously being able to essentially, 10x or more your capacity for something as bandwidth intensive as telehealth really required an all hands on deck approach from everything from our network and ops team all the way to our software team that was building the end clients for the telehealth applications, and also required our workforce to be really flexible and responsive, learning new tools and new ways of working. We're really proud of how we and VHA were able to partner to help successfully scale this program. Similar story for allowing people to work from home. I'm coming to you live from my dining room. You can maybe hear my 3-year-old or my 1-year-old crying upstairs as she's trying to go down for her nap. This idea of having many folks in our workforce working from home, a lot of them for the very first time, similarly put a huge strain on our existing ways of working. And we had to become very flexible very quickly to try new technologies, new approaches to scale us up. You can see the curve here. We were able to bring our remote work, almost double our remote work usage over the early months of the pandemic. And then on the customer facing side, we also were trying to very quickly create new capabilities that would help veterans understand how the VA was being impacted by the coronavirus pandemic and how that was going to impact their own services. We deployed things like chatbots to help quickly get information in the hands of the veterans who needed it. We also helped VHA roll out a digital screening tool, which speeds up the entry into medical centers, obviously getting a set of screening questions asked every time you want to come in and out of the facility can lead to bottlenecks, especially during shift changes for our VA staff. And so by creating this digital screener, which came out of one local medical center's innovation lab, we were able to get it nationwide and in use across the VA ecosystem very quickly. We also scaled our text messaging appointment reminder solution to actually introduce a new two-way communication style. So now in certain medical centers, veterans are able to check in for their appointments by texting a number and interact with the staff inside the medical center who can tell them when we're ready to see them. This is a way to decrease the crowding and the waiting inside of the medical centers and try to keep everyone as safe as possible when they come in for the care that we need to give them. So the point of all of these stories is to talk about how VA has really adapted some of these things that allow us to be very flexible. These systems, by and large, they existed in to some extent before the pandemic, but because we had these flexible approaches in place, we were able to quickly change them really in a matter of months to either scale them up in the case of telehealth or remote work, or just add totally new capabilities that we had not yet considered, like the chatbot or the I am here text messaging solution. And I think those approaches are really what's going to be needed for our agency to successfully adopt emerging technologies, especially those in the artificial intelligence space. So I want to look ahead now to a couple of technologies that I think are quite exciting for the agency in the years to come. And this is a place where my team is spending a lot of their focus. Two areas in particular. One, data-powered decision support, where we are able to quickly generate insights from our own data to help the VA perform better. And then the second is a API-first architecture, which is going to make it easier for our systems to interconnect with each other and for new capabilities to be delivered using those systems and the data that's contained inside of those systems. And these two technologies, I think, together will allow the VA to really transform a lot of its services. We've already seen some really exciting movements in both of these, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're working on now. But I am really, really excited about the potential of these technologies put together to transform the way we deliver healthcare. First of all, modernizing our data architecture is a real important priority for my office and our Chief Data Technology Officer, Denise Kitts, who started in that role just a few months ago. The VA has an enormous amount of data, and the way that the tools that we have to capture and to use that data are evolving and need to get even stronger. Everything from the capture of the data, often in transactional systems, then into the organization and the analysis, which lets us derive insights from those data sets, both on a long time scale, but also sometimes just immediately in the moment with more sophisticated technologies like event streaming. And then we need to take those insights and find a way to present them back to our users, in this case, clinicians or claims adjudicators, who then can make a decision, and then it's a continuous cycle from there. Every part of this ecosystem at the VA, we need to invest in to make more effective and more responsive. And we have a diverse ecosystem of data tools at the VA. So making all those things interconnect is a huge challenge for us, but one that we're tackling now. One of the very first use cases that uses this whole chain in real life is our work to modernize benefits processing and streamline them using some of our own data. With the decision support tool in this space, we used our historic corpus of data about claims decisions to provide nudges towards to provide a way for the computer to take a first stab at classifying claims as they come in, basically to decide which bucket to sort them into. And that step previously required a human to look at and then sort into the buckets. And that just added a couple of days to each claim. So you can imagine, with millions of claims coming in, that adds a lot of time to the process. And it was something that, using some machine learning models based on historic claims, we could apply a computer to take the first stab at it and then have a human verify the results afterwards. And I think it'll be things like this that really look at streamlining how we process things. It's really going to be a hybrid of applying data science and machine learning to existing human processes, rather than just a computer takes over the whole thing versus a person. It's instead going to be people and machines kind of working together, with the machines providing insights and recommendations and nudges to the humans to make them more effective and less error prone. So that is a really exciting model that we've got in production now. We have reduced, as I said, some of the wait times quite a lot, when you add them all up across our entire ecosystem. And then on the API side, we want to make our systems easier to connect to each other. And so our Lighthouse API program has provided a way for VA software systems to publish interfaces in a way that other systems can more easily understand what they would need to do to integrate. And this is helping inside the VA, helping us a lot increase the efficiencies of building new capabilities. But it's also something that we're able to expose in certain cases outside of the agency. So if you go to developer.va.gov right now, you'll be able to see a list of APIs that we have available for third parties to take a look at and to build systems that interface with the VA. And this is a really exciting, I think, opportunity for the VA, because we know that we alone are not going to come up with every good idea of how you might want to use our systems and data. And so we've been able to make it possible for folks like veteran service organizations, for example, to submit claims to us digitally instead of scanning them and mailing in a PDF or mailing in a piece of paper that then requires us to handle that way. So exposing these capabilities in a structured way really makes it possible for us to use our systems in new and unexpected ways. And I think an API first architecture is where we're going to try to drive many of our core systems to make it easier for us to change them and add new capabilities over time. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of a flavor of the sorts of trends that we see here at the VA. But what I really just want to emphasize is that before we start adopting new shiny objects like artificial intelligence into the federal government ecosystem, we really need to focus a little bit on the how we use these things. The processes and the people that are at the core of delivering any technology successfully. We are investing heavily in that in the VA, and hopefully you're seeing that in some of the work that you're doing with us, and also seeing that at some of the agencies that you are working with outside the VA. So thanks very much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.